Good morning, Thailand. Thank you for joining us for a brand new week, episode number 36. And we're back in our Studio One here at the Thaiger. And we say good morning to Bill Barnett from C9 Hotel Works.
Hi, good morning, Tim. And we're away from the Thai road trip.
Yes, out
After Hawaii and the Intercon.
Intercon.
Yeah,
It was very pleasant being down at the beach. Not that we really got much chance to sort of do other than sort of sit in our mock studio. We might head out again sometime soon. It was a good bit of fun, and thank you to all those people that dropped in to sort of wave hello. Some of them came to throw things, but that's okay too. We'll start off today, I suppose, by doing a bit of a update on what's sort of happening, and we'll have Caitlin on from Bangkok to just go through the situation in Bangkok at the moment, but she's not quite online yet.
I think we're going to have an update on Stefanie too, right?
Stefanie. The Stefanie story, we'll get to that later in the program with a Stefanie update, everybody wanting to know. And of course, we'll get to your questions. Bill, everybody wants to know the trend with the COVID cases. Today, 8,656 new infections, 80 COVID-related deaths, 73 of the cases announced today by the CSA are from Thai prisons. That prison situation is sort of the slow-burning news story that nobody's really addressing, but I suppose it's been overshadowed by the...
And the Sunday numbers always are slow. And I guess there's been a lot of questions too about the Sandbox in terms of what the numbers are. Over the weekend, on Sunday, we passed 4,000 travelers in on the Sandbox. There's been 6 confirmed cases of COVID in terms of that. So in terms of percentage basis, it's 0.15%. So, in terms of, when we do look at the Sandbox, we will say, is it successful, is it failed, or anything else? Again, 4,000 people have come in on it. It's about 160,000 room nights for hotels in the island through August in terms. So I think for hotels, they are feeling a bit of a benefit right now from the Sandbox.
And we'll certainly sort of speak in greater depth, and a lot of the questions coming through are about the Sandbox. So we'll get to that, and I suppose when we talk about the Stefanie situation, we'll address that as well.
I know it's a big weekend in sports too, right?
Well, yes. So here we go. Completely without notice, we're now crossing over to the Thaiger Sports Desk to find out what happened over the weekend. Jay, tell us what happened as we go to a wide shot without you in it.
Hello and good morning. So we had a lot of major sporting events this weekend. Firstly, the main most important one is that Italy beat England last night, 3-1 penalties, winning the European Championship at about 4:30 a.m. Thai time.
Okay.
Italian goalkeeper Gianluigi Donnarumma saving 3 penalties and being named player of the tournament.
He's the big guy, isn't he?
He is a mountain of a man. He is huge.
What? So a mountain man in sort of soccer terms is somebody who's over 5'7"?
Oh yeah, definitely. He's way more than 6.
All right. Okay, what else happened?
In other football news, in Copa America final, Argentina beat Brazil, making Lionel Messi win his first major international trophy for Argentina. Finally, for one of the best players in the world. And in UFC news, Conor McGregor suffers a horrific injury in his stoppage loss to Dustin Poirier in his trilogy fight.
Why is it surprising that somebody suffers a horrific injury in MMA when you got grown men kicking the living crap out of other grown men?
Broken leg, right?
Yeah, well, he kind of stepped on it in a wrong way. It wasn't. It might have been because he was kicking the other guy, but.
All right, so there you go. There's a bit of an update on the soccer. So for all those English fans out there that are sort of crying in their breakfast cereal this morning, commiserations, congratulations to the Italians. Bill,
we are going to see Jay tomorrow. Actually, you have a chance to see Jay as well.
Well, yes. I'm not sure if that's a good thing, but actually Jay's going to be sitting in this chair tomorrow. I'm going to be sitting in your chair.
And we've got Abel coming back on Wednesday as
Abel's back on Wednesday. So the team, we've sort of got our little A team here at Good Morning Thailand. Now, just another thing, an aside, I suppose, Bill, before we maybe get to some of these questions, hopefully Caitlin will come online soon. I just noticed over the weekend that in the United States, in the past 2 weeks, after having 2 or 3 months of steeply declining new cases each day, the caseload in the United States has tripled in the past 2 weeks. So if the United States thinks they're out of this mess, they're not. I think they're going to have problems with this Delta variant as well. The good news, though, in just checking the stats, is that the death rate is at least stable with some 300 or 400 each day, which is still a horrible situation for those people. But just noting that the actual case number has tripled in the past 2 weeks.
Certainly the UK. The UK is getting about 30,000 cases a day, and that's, again, they're talking about reopening, changing the status, from member status for travelers to let them back in the country as well. But when people view the Sandbox and say the Sandbox has failed and everything else, I think you have to look a little further abroad as well. If the UK is getting 30,000 cases a day, is Thailand doing that bad a job, Tim? What do you think?
Well, obviously the situation's very fluid at the moment. The cases are all going up. We've got these big problems in Bangkok and the provinces, and we'll talk about the lockdowns which start today. Yeah. They're not using the word lockdown. They don't want to say the
partial
L word.
Lockdown, I think.
Partial lockdown. But there are curfews, additional restrictions, such that it's going to be pretty hard to open your shop in Bangkok. For at least 2 weeks. It could be longer.
I think even more difficult now are the restrictions to Phuket from people from Bangkok as well, or from high-risk areas, in terms of they would have to be fully vaccinated or have 1 shot of AstraZeneca and have a PCR test.
That's right. So actually, we've got Caitlin coming online in just a moment. Oh. There she is. So what we'll do at this stage is we'll have a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll have a chat to Caitlin, who's all the way up there in Bangkok and in the middle of this new lockdown. Oh, sorry, can I say lockdown? Okay, Caitlin, we'll be with you in just a moment. Good morning. Caitlin just got up. So this is Good Morning Thailand, and we'll be back right after this. Back on Good Morning Thailand. Thank you very much for joining us on episode number 36. And Bill, let's cross to the red zone, well, actually the dark red zone, Bangkok. Our senior writer for the Thaiger, Caitlin Ashworth. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so you've got a bit of a dodgy line there, but we'll persist and see how we go. Caitlin, let's go through what are the restrictions and the curfew? What are people in Bangkok waking up to today?
So they're waking up to these new restrictions that were put in place on Friday. The curfew is set from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. During that time, public transportation is also not allowed to operate. And public transportation is also told to please limit their routes during their operating hours.
What does limit their routes mean?
It just means just run less buses, that kind of thing. So okay. The point is they don't want people going out of their house, which is pretty hard to do in Bangkok.
Sure.
I guess it's also work from home now as well.
You can work at home. If you work in a government office, you probably will be. At my office, we're given the choice whether we want to or not. Of course, we're working in a social distance, setup. So people are told to work at home. If you work for a government office,
for the public service,
then you will be.
What about restaurants right now? Are you able to go to restaurants?
Restaurants have been dine-in only, and they will be for the rest of the month. But under these restrictions that are in place for the next 2 weeks, restaurants are takeaway only, and they must close by 8 p.m.
Okay, so what are I believe shopping centres are partially closed?
Shopping centers are partially closed. So the businesses that are allowed to still operate are those that I guess you would say are the essential businesses. So these are supermarkets, anything with food.
The Apple Store, the Apple Store's an essential
institutions.
service.
Well, I mean, if you're working from home, you kind of need to. You need the technology, and then of course pharmacies. Some vaccination centers are still set up at shopping centers, so those will still be open. And these measures are for Bangkok and the surrounding areas. So those provinces are also experiencing a high number of cases. So those are Nonthaburi, Pathum Thani, Nakhon Pathom, Samut Prakan, and Samut Sakhon.
Okay, Bill.
I think that also Bangkokians are being requested not to travel provincially as well. So if somebody wants to go to Hua Hin, are they allowed to go to Hua Hin, or they're just being discouraged to go to Hua Hin?
Right. Well, right now you're being discouraged from, I mean, it's hard to say. It's like, are you going to Hua Hin because you're going to move and you're going to live there, or are you just going for vacation? So they did say that there will be checkpoints.
88
when it comes to
checkpoints,
leaving
actually.
the province. Yeah, a lot. But then again, sometimes checkpoints end up just checking your temperature. So this is what happened back in April of 2020 when they said they would have checkpoints between provinces. I wasn't in Bangkok, but when I was in the south, and when we did leave the province, they would just check your temperature. So that was the check. But they will strongly discourage and limit interprovincial travel in dark red zones. So that also includes the deep south provinces.
Yeah, the four southern provinces are also in sort of a state of lockdown at the moment for slightly different reasons. But indeed, it looks like the government are getting sort of real for the areas around the country that are showing a steep rise in new cases. It's not the only measure of this infection at the moment, but it is probably at least showing a trend. Caitlin, that's great. Thank you very much for that update, and thank you for finding your way to where are you? I'm trying to see what's in the background behind you. Is that a sofa or is that dirty washing?
It's a sofa. Yeah.
Just checking. All right, Caitlin Ashworth from the Thaiger. Good luck with getting to the office today. Keep your mask on, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Caitlin there. We'll have another quick break, Bill. Then we're going to come back. We've got a lot of questions, and we've also got an update on the Stefanie story.
Oh, Stefanie's back.
Stefanie. Everybody wants to talk about Stefanie. That's all coming up on Good Morning Thailand.
Tim was sad. He had time on his hands but didn't know where to find the news. But then he remembered. The Thaiger app. All your Thai news and Thaiger videos in one place. Just a single click takes you to a one-stop connection to all the news and information in Thailand. Now Tim is happy. Available free on Apple and Android, hologram not included.
And you're on Good Morning Thailand. And you're on Good Morning Thailand, take two, all the way from Studio One in Phuket, Thailand. Bill, update there from Caitlin. We're now going to have a bit of a talk about what's happening here in Phuket, but a few questions first.
We've got a first question from Freedom Fighter. Can I still fly to Bangkok from Phuket? I've got to get back home to Ratchaburi. My wife is planning to pick me at the airport. What would be the best way to get back during the lockdown, Tim?
At the moment, there are flights. I believe that AirAsia have postponed flights as well
Bangkok
as
Airways
Bangkok Airways. So you're just going to have to jump online and see who's still flying. Vietjet, Thai Smile,
Knock
Air look like your only options at the moment. The buses, they've stopped the bus services out of Phuket at the moment. Of course, if you've got a car or a motorbike, you could jump on that. But it's about a 12-hour drive to Bangkok these days from Phuket.
It's going to be a while, but I think, again, the airlift is shrinking until the end of the month. So carefully check what flights are out there and be prepared for changes.
Sure. Another question.
From Scott D. Although I'd like to stay positive, are the alarming developments variant DX that are going to overtake the focus on the Sandbox? That's a big question as well, because everybody's saying, what's going to happen with the Sandbox? Is the Bangkok situation going to overwhelm it?
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. I've got a funny feeling that they're going to try and just ride this situation out. No matter how many cases we may get in Phuket, they're probably just going to try and contain the situation. It is still a very safe place to come to. These people who have tested positive are being identified, they're being isolated. These safety situations are in place, as inconvenient, obviously, as they are, which sort of brings us to Stefanie. So this story, I just interviewed this lady on Saturday morning. It's sort of become a little bit of a internet sensation locally. Can we just roll tape, Jay, on a bit of the interview I did with Stefanie? You are actually now in an enforced quarantine. What happened?
Well, I came here and the flight from Dubai to Phuket, it was not really fully booked, but it was really good booked. There were a lot of passengers on the flight.
Yes.
And I had a guy sitting next to me on the same line. He belonged to a big family. And well, I got out of the airport. Everything went very smoothly. It's really very well organized. They checked my papers. They took the first swab test, transferred me to my hotel. Really, really nice, beautiful hotel. And I stayed in my room for the first, maybe 12 hours.
And that was waiting to get your result from the PCR test at the airport.
Exactly. So I waited like 12 hours for the first test, and it was negative. And then I wandered around the island, took a scooter, went to the beach. And when I came back, the receptionist told me that I'm in a high-risk group because I sat right beside a guy who was tested positive on this first corona test at the airport. So I was asked to transfer immediately to an ALQ hotel.
Oh my goodness! So it's not the same hotel?
No, it's not the same hotel. It's a different one, and it was quite difficult to find a hotel because actually it seems like most of the hotels.
So you had to find the ALQ hotel?
Yeah, I had to find it. There was no support at all from the government. There weren't anybody from the authorities at my hotel picking me up or talking to me or whatever. It was just the receptionist who told me that she got a call from the authorities that I have to transfer to an ALQ.
So there you are. You've just arrived in the Sandbox, all the best intentions to come and stay in Phuket for the 14 days and then head off to other parts of Thailand, and you're shuffled off to an ASQ because you were in the same proximity as somebody who got tested. So we've got those 6 people who arrived from overseas and have tested positive, and that's part of the risk. I think everybody understands that was going to happen, and those case numbers or the percentage is quite small. But it's the people around them who are now being affected, and the government is saying, well, you're just going to have to go and stay in an ASQ at your expense. And I think this is part of the problem. And so this adds just to the risk level of coming to support Thailand at the moment if you are just caught out and unfortunately in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Exactly. And I think, we're early days. I think the Stefanie story is quite interesting because it will prompt action. I think something we've heard, and you'll be going through it a little later, are the comments you're receiving, but also the government action in terms of trying to address what's happened to this and try to improve it. So again, there's learnings from this. I think anywhere else on earth right now with COVID-19, every country is struggling how to deal with this. And this is another case, but certainly this is not the best PR in the world. This has to be addressed, Tim.
So Boom Kitty, who has spoken to us on the Thaiger and Good Morning Thailand, he's the president of the Phuket Tourist Association.
PTA.
He did contact Stefanie, as has the German embassy and the local consulate. I'll just read this out from Stefanie, who just sent this update to me this morning. I hope I will get a reply to my question to Boom Kitty if there is any chance of getting out of quarantine earlier, but I don't think there is. And of course, and we've just got some pictures here of the presentation made by the Phuket Tourist Association to Stefanie over the weekend. I'm waiting for my PCR test result, the latest result she had on Saturday night. Yesterday evening, I put together a kind of FAQ with all the questions that I got. We're going to be publishing that on the Thaiger. A lot of people have contacted Stefanie. So it looks like the Phuket Tourist Association and the officials have said, we're so sorry that what's happened. We regret the situation that you're in. It's a dreadful situation. We're sorry about what's happened, but you're stuck in ASQ.
Yeah. I think it's a moving story as well. I think it'd be good to get Stefanie on maybe the next couple of days and have a talk.
Sure.
What is she doing now in terms of that? Yeah.
I mean, she's fully vaccinated. Assumedly, her PCR test result will come back negative today. Yet she's forced to stay in this ASQ hotel at her expense. I might also mention, as mentioned in the video that you can see on YouTube at the Thaiger channel, she's paying 52,000 baht for 14 days of accommodation. The room, it's about 32 square metres. It's not a flash room. It's nice. It's probably 3 or 4 star. It's got a little kitchenette in it.
Right.
And of course, she's also getting 3 meals a day. But 52, that's 3,400 baht a day for a room I know I could get for about 1,000 baht a night. So is there some sort of price gouging going on these unfortunate situations?
I don't think at all. In terms of the ASQ hotels, there is a portion that goes to the hotel. There's also a portion which goes back to the government as well. And the government's not getting rich. Again, we understand that the tourism right now, Phuket in 2019 had 9 million travelers visit the island. Right now we're getting 200 a day, coming through those flights. So it's not getting rich on this extra money. But again, there is a cost. So in terms of hotels gouging, when we're looking at the Sandbox hotels, there's over 600 tourism establishments with Sandbox offerings, anywhere from 1,000 baht a night onwards. I think in perspective, you got to also look abroad. I mean, right now to fly, we saw reports last week to fly to Sydney from overseas from the UK, I believe is $38,000, Tim. Now we talk about scams, we talk about price gouging. How's that?
Yeah, that's certainly a price gouge. I sit in the back row with the cargo. Let's go through some more of these comments and questions because we've got plenty of them, Bill.
We've got a question in from Ginkan. How can you, on one hand, have Phuket schools closed and on the other hand, 4,000 people and 6 people with COVID coming into the island, it's time to suspend the Sandbox until Delta is under control. So right now, do we believe that we should suspend arrivals with 6 people testing positive?
I think the Sandbox, it's not just Phuket, remember. This is a blueprint to reopen Thailand to international travellers, be they tourists or people just wanting to get back for whatever reason, business people. So you have to have some blueprint in place. And there's going to be some bumps along the way. Stefanie's just one of those unfortunate bumps. And I also have to mention that the last 3 days, it hasn't stopped raining in Phuket. I am, however, very happy to report that the sun's out this morning and I can see a little bit of blue sky. It has been a bit wet though, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, in all fairness, going backwards, should the UK suspend arrivals with 30,000 people a day and should the US suspend arrivals as well?
This Delta variant, I think, is the elephant in the room at the moment around the world. And we also don't know precisely how all the different vaccinations are going to work against this Delta variant. So I don't think it's just Thailand or Phuket that's got this Delta variant problem. It's a problem around the world and obviously a big part of the story and the narrative for the next few weeks.
And there's big news with the US government donating a number of Pfizer shots to the Thai government, which also has an allocation for foreigners as well, Tim.
Yeah, and I actually wrote an editorial yesterday, and it was called The Sandbox Guarantee. And what I said in that editorial is that if Thailand is really wanting, Phuket, because it's the pioneer in the Sandbox, if they're really real about getting tourists and travellers back into Thailand, they should provide a guarantee that if there is any additional expenses incurred because of these sort of incidents or even accidents, if you want to call them, that the government should be paying for this to give people a guarantee. You got any thoughts on the Sandbox guarantee?
I think there has to be a better procedure. Again, there's going to be learnings. I think the more we hear about Stefanie, these are positive things. I think providing a forum, it's not a
I
bad
want you
thing.
to answer the question. Do you think the government should put their hands in the pockets and pay a guarantee? So if they have to go to ASQ, should the government have to pay?
I think it's, travel is a private policy. It's not a government policy. The people are coming in, they take that risk. I think insurance should pay.
Well, the insurance, of course, have said, well, she's not sick, so we're not going to pay. Well, well, maybe the government should then issue an insurance policy and then cover
Correct.
the.
There has to be a process to cover this, obviously.
Yeah, because we don't want people coming here and running into these problems. Because Stefanie came in good faith. She came as an early pioneer. She was coming to spend her money in the country, and she's been shuffled off to an ASQ. I don't think the government's going to be happy to see this happening, and sadly, she probably won't be the only case. Another question.
There's another question in from Johnny San. Question from California. Why is the Thai government still using Sinovac vaccine when China has vaccinated the entire population and starting major lockdowns in every city? Doesn't work.
Well, I don't think China is doing lockdowns in every city. I'm not sure where you've got that information. Certainly that information is not what I understand. Did you see Dave Cook's? What's that about? The comments section. It's a show all on its own. It looks like the Sinovac may not be the most efficient against the Delta variant. There may be boosters needed in the future. We are in the early days of trying to sort our way through this Delta variant. So, again, we didn't know about the Delta variant when that vaccine was developed. Maybe some of the mRNA vaccines are more efficient, but we're still really in the early days of understanding the situation.
I think something we're watching this week also is going to be Koh Samui is opening on the 15th with a sealed route.
3 days.
Exactly. And travelers will be required to fly through Bangkok. There's 3 flights a day to Koh Samui on a sealed route. So in terms of that, they'll be going straight to hotels and spending 3 days in ASQ hotels. And from day 4, they can go out and about on the island.
Can they? How many days do they have to stay in Samui before they can go to Koh
14
Phangan?
days. To Koh Phangan, no. They on day 8 to 14.
Okay, so the second
go to
week.
Koh Tao, Koh Phangan, yes,
Right.
exactly.
Oh, good luck to those 2 islands, who I'm sure will be happy to see a few visitors.
What'll be interesting as well is to see whether people will want to fly through Bangkok to go to Koh Samui. With the Phuket Sandbox, you're able to fly in direct. So that's a little easier for travelers, but for travelers who want to go to Koh Samui, they do have to enter through Bangkok.
Now, another thing, I'm not sure if we did mention, but if you want to travel to Phuket at the moment from Bangkok on the limited number of flights, and this includes if you fly in or if you come in by road, up to last week, you only needed to be fully vaccinated or have a current PCR test over the past 72 hours. Looks like that's been modified, Bill.
Yes, exactly. That's going to be a little more difficult now because, again, people who are coming from high-risk areas, they're going to require, I think we talked earlier, they're going to require 2 vaccinations or 1 AstraZeneca. So if you've had Sinovac, two vaccinations of that or 1. And they'll also, in terms of, if they're from a high-risk area, they'll have to have a PCR test.
In addition to, so it's just getting a little bit harder to get back onto the island at the moment.
We don't really expect a lot of travelers from Bangkok. I think everywhere in Thailand right now is not expecting a lot of outbound, whether you're in Hua Hin, Patti, or Chiang Mai as well.
What do you think about the government saying on Friday, we're going to lock down Bangkok from Monday and put up checkpoints, and then giving people 3 days to flee the city? Don't tell me that the roads out of Bangkok weren't busy over the weekend.
This will be the same situation as happened before Songkran, when the Thai government probably should have shut down after the first emergence of the variants.
Let's check. Good morning from Sweden. Oh, the messages disappear as soon as they come. Vaccines don't stop you having COVID. It reduces the symptoms. Thank you very much, John. For those people that don't understand how vaccines work, jump onto Google and do some research. But no, that's correct. The vaccines don't stop you from getting COVID. Question, if you transit Bangkok to Koh Samui, can you also transit Bangkok to Phuket as well from other countries?
I'm not sure if they're allowing that yet, frankly speaking. It's something we can check, and you guys can talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah, they were talking about having some sort of dedicated transit lounge for people arriving in Bangkok who intended to come to Phuket to participate in the Sandbox, but I don't think they've announced that yet. Of course, they have to sort of seal the situation so they get off the plane and are taken to the transit lounge. And at the moment, there's only sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 flights into Phuket each day. A long way from the days when we used to get about 60 flights from Bangkok to Phuket. It was a very busy air route, but not at the moment. Okay, a few more questions, then we might say farewell for the morning.
I think there are a lot of people talking about the vaccine for foreigners in Bangkok and how that situation is evolving.
Interesting, one of our headlines this morning, I just noted, and I'll grab it. Jason put the headlines together this morning. 105,000 AstraZeneca and 150,000 Pfizer vaccines are being earmarked for foreigner vaccination in Thailand. So it looks like the government are putting aside some of these imported vaccines for foreign populations. Don't ask us to give you a website to register on at the moment. We don't know if that's been formally announced, but these numbers were printed or published over the weekend. Also, some further talk that some of the embassies are mulling the possibility of vaccinating their citizens, but at the moment only 4 countries have decided to do that. For the British, for the Australians. Oh, by the way, congratulations to the Australian girl who won Wimbledon on the weekend.
Exactly, great story.
The first Australian female to win Wimbledon in 41 years. I think the last one was Yvonne Goolagong. I watched that match. So, well done to her. Novak Djokovic won the men's singles at Wimbledon. Crossing to the sports desk.
We've got Jay tomorrow.
We've got Jay tomorrow.
So I think, Tim, what's going to be on the Thaiger the rest of this week?
I don't know. We make it up as we go.
There you go.
Obviously, we do. Any more questions? See if we can do one each, just because we've got quite a few coming in. We're both staring. Why don't these stupid countries do a test before they let these idiots on a plane? Says Bob. Well, yes, the idea of people are doing a test before they get on the plane. It's one of the conditions of your certificate of entry that you have to present a negative PCR test. But the thing is, the insidious part of this virus is that it sometimes takes up to 14 days to incubate and to present as antibodies that can be detected by a PCR test. So people could jump on a plane negative and then arrive and then in the intervening days become positive. That happens, and obviously has happened 6 times so far, and it will continue to happen. So that was an unfortunate situation.
There's another question. Can domestic travelers that are not part of the Sandbox permitted to exit Phuket and fly to Bangkok? If you want to fly to Bangkok, you can fly to Bangkok. That's the question is, if you're a resident or of the island, can you fly into Bangkok? Absolutely, yes. You can right now. Again, you have to be vaccinated. And when you return, because it's a red zone, you'll have to have a PCR test. So
as well as
it's going to be an expensive exercise. And there's not a lot of flights.
Yeah, so definitely do your homework before doing anything. And I think we could say that the situation is fairly fluid, that it could change quite quickly. We will do our best, as we always do, at the Thaiger, to keep you fully informed. But assume that things are going to change on just about a daily basis.
And Monday's a big news day, so expect changes by tomorrow, I would imagine.
Also, the numbers today, as we mentioned at the start of the show, the number of COVID cases reported is a little bit down, but Sunday and Monday reports are usually lower than the rest of the week.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so with all that, we do thank you very much for watching Good Morning Thailand. Thank you, Bill, for your counsel.
Thanks, Tim,
and your information.
And we look forward to Jay tomorrow. Jay?
Thank you to the sports desk for bringing us up to date with what happened with the football overnight. And I can't wait for my English counterparts to come into the office today. Thank you for your comments and your questions, and we do really appreciate you watching the program every day. Back again with another Good Morning Thailand. Jet's probably coming up with Thailand news today, and if you want to catch the full interview with Stefanie, you can go to our YouTube page and watch the whole thing there, and we'll update you the Stefanie story over the next few days. Thanks, Bill.
Great. Thanks, Thailand.
Thank you.